Okay, so this time we're going to talk about how to shrink a log when you take a log backup. Now, Minion Backup will do this for you automatically, but of course you have to set it up. Now, this is a very interesting scenario, and I see this in a lot of shops. Let's take, for example, that you have a large transaction that that fills up your log. Say, we'll go really big, right? It fills it up to like 90 gigs, and then that transaction ends, and the whole log gets truncated the next time it takes a backup. And now you're left with this mostly empty 90 gig log file, right? And the way this always works is you always have to go in afterwards and you have to get the disk alert, and then you have to go out to that server, and then you have to shrink that file back down, because who wants a 90 gig log file floating around? So Minion Backup will do that for you. And here's how you do that. First, you have to put the settings right in the settings table. So shrink log on log backup, and you notice how it says on log backup. It will not do this for a full or a diff, only for a log. And of course, you turn that on by setting it to 1. And then you give it a shrink log threshold in megs. So what that means is, how big do you want the log file to be before you're going to shrink it? And this really only counts for the size of the log itself. It doesn't matter how full it is, you're still going to try to shrink it, right? So if it's a 90 gig log, it's going to try to shrink it to this gig that you told it to. So I have to specify this in megs. So 5021 is 5 gigs and 1024 is 1 gig. So I'm telling it here that if the log is over 5 gigs, try to shrink it back down to a gig. Simple enough. So I'm going to enable that. Now let's take a look at it in the settings table. Oops. Oh yeah. I wish I could select the right data. There we go. Here we are. And that data is right here. So shrink log on log backup, shrink log threshold, and shrink log size. So now whenever I run a log backup, and let's just go ahead and, okay, good, I've got one set up here. And let's verify the size of the log first so that we can see what we're looking at here. Do a log space, and I'm interested in the Minion dev database, and it doesn't look like it is very big. So let's go ahead and make it big. Let's make sure that I'm looking at the right one. Yep. So let's go ahead and make this big. It'll just take a few seconds. Okay, there we go. Now let's look at it again. And you can see that we have a 6 gig log that's mostly empty. And of course I'm using 6 gigs. I'm not going to blow my laptop out to 90 gigs, right? Okay, so now we've got our big log. And let's go ahead and run the log backup on the Minion dev database. And remember, we've got those settings set for it to shrink the log. There we go, and done. Good, now let's take a look at our log space. And you'll see here that for Minion Dev, we're back down to a gig, and we're 3% full. So Minion Dev has shrunk that log for us. Let's take a look and see what this looks like in the log file itself, because there are lots of columns that show you log data. And let me show you what actually gets logged. So first we have the status and execute, the status, the percent complete, the database name, and all we're interested in here is this row 1. A lot of this other stuff is just testing stuff, but this is the backup we just took. So it's a backup type of log. We give you the thresholds that we set in there, so we tell you what it should have done. And then look at this. We give you the pre-backup log size, so you can see what it was before the backup. Then we give you the percentage used before the backup, and then we give you the post-backup size and percentage used, so you can see what it was actually shrunk down to and what percentage it is now. Now we also give you the pre-log reuse weight description and the post-log reuse weight description. And these two columns give you something very interesting. They give you the ability to troubleshoot and alert log issues, because log backups aren't the only thing that'll keep a log from truncating. You can have a log not truncate on you for, mirroring, replication, all kinds of things, right? There are large transactions, so there are lots of reasons why a log may not truncate. And this column comes directly out of sys databases, and it tells you what SQL is waiting for to be able to truncate that log. So by giving it to you before and after, then we're giving you the ability to see if there are any problems and even write specialized alerts against that data. And we even give you the number of VLFs, so you can even track your VLFs throughout the day or throughout the week. So there's a lot of really good data in here, and we give you everything you need to monitor and to troubleshoot and to plan all of this stuff. So if you see that you've got this log growing bigger and bigger and bigger every day, and it's constantly being shrunk down and constantly being shrunk down and constantly being shrunk down, well, then maybe you should just leave it a little bit larger and forego the shrinking, right? Because you're taking up extra I/O when you have to keep zeroing out that log file for it to grow all the time. If it's going to keep growing like that, then you might as well leave it large and forego all of that zeroing out. So it's just good log management at that point. But this will give you the ability to see those patterns over time and manage your logs a lot more effectively and cut down on the I/O of your box. Now on top of this, you don't even have to do it for a single database. Let's take a look at the settings table again. There we go. And this is just for the Minion default, right? So this is what's going to happen for every database if they don't have an exception. If you want to put in other databases in here and give database exceptions for the log backups, then you're perfectly you're perfectly able to do that. And then you could have one database not shrink the logs at all, because maybe you don't want to manage the log space that way on that database. Or you could have another one only kick in at, say, 100 gigs or at 50 gigs or at 30 gigs and only shrink it down to 20 gigs if you want to. Or you could have, another database with completely different values. So it's entirely up to you. Just because I only have a single row in here doesn't mean that it's all or nothing for your entire server. You can get every single database can have its own settings, and you can get very rich configurations with with these types of things without adding any extra jobs whatsoever, because it's all done right here.